Let's get started. So, class, this business essentials part 2 will be more detailed information about that we have studied already, like requirement gathering, elicitations, all those techniques. So what is the difference here from the previous class? Here, we are going to study the requirement elicitation definition and techniques in details, and also how do you capture and define the requirements in details, what are different techniques that we will be using, and what is the pros and cons of all those techniques. So this is the agenda of this whole course, and that we will be closing 2 classes the max today or maybe tomorrow. And the objective of the course is you will learn in detail the process of elicitations, the process of gathering, and different the advantages and disadvantages of all those techniques. So we are going to study in really detail. So please pay good attention and please ask questions if you have. And this course will also help you learn how do you actually define, or what is the correct word? It's like, how do you identify the good stakeholder? That would be the right word, identifying the stakeholders and documenting them. And then, as usual, I'll also give you some the questions that you can practice, and important tips will always be there in all my videos. So stay tuned. Key points, as I have always been requesting you guys, you don't need to memorize anything unless you see this red icon here. And I would recommend you memorize only mathematical formulas and by practicing them, not by memorizing them. So in this BA course, you will have like hardly some of the formulas, not all. For the project managers in the PMP classes, we have like good number of formulas that I recommend them to remember. But for you guys, probably like a couple of them only. All right, so next, the key terms, these probably might be the repetitions of all those terms. And hopefully by this time we have studied a lot. So you may have already understood most of them watching the previous videos. If you have not, I would recommend you go and watch those videos once again. And if you have any questions, you can let me know. And the YouTube viewers, you can comment and I can try answer your questions. Let's start then. What is requirement elicitation? So before I go ahead, let me give you a little background that what we have studied before. For some people, requirement elicitation and requirement gathering are both same thing. For us, requirement elicitation is like one step in detail of the requirement gathering. So when we are saying requirement elicitation, it's not only requirement gathering, it's also requirement definitions. How do you define those requirements? So in requirement gathering, we focus on what is needed and why it is needed. Moreover, during elicitation, it also includes how, when, and where can we deliver. And we will not be able to know how, when, and where unless we go a little detail on those captured requirements. So if you hear people saying requirement elicitation, and if they talk about the requirement gathering, and they also include this identification, prioritizing of the requirement, finding the constraints, dependencies, then they're right. They're actually doing requirement gathering and elicitations all together, which is okay. If you have good experience, which is okay, you can do that. That all depends upon your experience and your the nature of the project. But I would always recommend people, you should not focus on how, when, and where can it be delivered during the requirement gathering. This might make your life a little complicated. So try to have them at 2 different places. Number one, focus on what is needed, why it is needed. And when you're actually doing analysis and elicitation, you can do, okay, now how can we deliver? What are the different constraints, challenges that we have, when and where this can be delivered based on all those research. Requirement elicitation is very critical steps because this is the foundation of the whole project. So if you do not have a good foundation, your whole project will collapse. So this is very important, and you as a BA will be playing a very crucial and very important role in this requirement elicitation and requirement gathering phases. This is very, very important. You have to be very focused on this thing. This is the base foundation of everything. So this has to be really strong. As we have always been telling, if the requirement is not properly captured, defined, understood, software might not be success. This might fail. The reason being, this will not have the actual thing that we have to take it forward in order for the successful completion of the project. And obviously this will result unsatisfied customers, you will waste your resources, money, and project will ultimately is going to be failure for sure. So this is very important. As I have been just telling you, you have to be very focused when you're actually capturing the requirement. No assumptions. Everything has to be well captured, written, reviewed, and approved. So how do you actually elicit and capture the requirement? There's so many different processes that we will be studying in next slides today. Some of them I have mentioned here is interview, conducting surveys and analyzing the documents and observing users and prototyping. These are some that I have named here. We have a lot more that we will be studying in details, each of them. And we will also discuss the different techniques and the pros and cons of all those techniques in the further slides. And it is very important for you to find all the relevant stakeholders and involve them from day one. If you will not involve them during requirement gathering, elicitation, or analysis process, probably you might not get all their feedbacks and inputs. When you reiterate things, you go in the iteration mode. What happens? You do the small things and you keep repeating doing all those things. So what happens? Gradually in the initial stages, business will know if you have captured the correct requirement, or business will also know if they have given you the correct requirements. So this is very important to keep them involved in all the phases, wherever you can. It's very important. Now, on a high level, what are the different techniques of the elicitation? The number one, which is very, very important, is you have to identify all possible stakeholders, because they are the one who will actually provide you the requirements. They are the one who will actually fund your project, use your software, will help you taking this forward. So this is very important for you to identify all the stakeholders. Now, the question is who the stakeholders are and how do we identify them? We have studied this before in detail in the previous classes, but today I'm also going to give you a refresher, I will help you revise your memories, who the stakeholders are, and how can we categorize them in different, the main broader categories in the further slides. And then once you have the stakeholders identified, then you should go ahead and find out what technique I'm going to use to capture the requirement from one or all the stakeholders. The key point to remember here is not all the techniques will work for one, or not one technique will work for all the stakeholders. You have to find out what technique I'm going to use with this or that or the whole group of the stakeholders. Now, again, this probably will come out from your previous experiences of this project, not your working experience. You have dealt with a lot of the stakeholders within the project, and you have studied a lot of documents. Now, probably you would know in detail, okay, this person A is very high in power, very high in interest. So I have to keep him informed or her informed or monitor very closely. So what technique I should be using when I'm going to go and talk to this person or this group of person? Probably you would be in a situation to know all those things when you have studied the requirement, you have done your homework. So this is very important. So I'm just again repeating, not one technique is going to be useful for all the stakeholders, and not all the techniques will be useful for one stakeholder. So you have to find out which one I'm going to use. Now, once you have identified the stakeholders and now you know what techniques I'm going to use, you have to capture the detailed requirements, which is the key. And then, as I said, you have to iterate, validate, and visualize along the way. What does it mean? It means you have captured something. Go and review with the team. Go and review with the business. Try to come up with some, some more insights, more details. If you can add some prototypes, some diagrams, images, so that business can understand more. Okay, this is going to look like this way. So what will happen? Business will try to clear the doubts and will try to give you more details. So this will help you. You will not be in a situation where the project will be completely failed. So that is why it is very important for you to keep business involved from day one, because they are the one who are going to use it. When I'm saying business, could be anyone, any of the stakeholders, could be the users, fund who is providing you the funds, or whoever. We are going to review them in detail in the next slides. So as I said, who the stakeholders are, we all know. We have studied this many times in the previous classes. Any person or group that has an interest in the project, so anyone who is directly, indirectly involved with the project, will be your stakeholders. anyone who is funding you, who's going to use, who's going to develop the software, you as a BA, your project manager, whoever is directly, indirectly involved with the project will be your stakeholders. Now you need to know, for the requirement gathering perspective, who are the key stakeholders for you, and you have to find them, document them, and talk to them for the requirements. The stakeholder can be responsible for one or more project activities or deliverables at the same time. This person may have multiple deliverables. This person might be working for different projects, or this person might be having a different roles within the same project. So you need to identify all of them. And how do you identify? The more you study the project, the more you meet with the people, the more you talk to them, the more you get the insights and the ideas. So the key is keep talking, keep learning, keep finding, those details, and keep moving forward. Make progressing every day. If you have someone who is really high in interest and high in power, don't you believe that person can have that person will be in a situation to create a lot of problems for you, or in other words, can help you a lot as well? So this stakeholder can really create constraints for you or boundaries for you, or can really clear them out for you so that you can move forward and do your good, do your best. So this is very important for you to understand who the stakeholders are, who can actually create problems or can help you a lot, right, during the project life cycle. So please make sure you have to have a clear understanding on the stakeholders. This person might be a decision maker or an influencer, as I just said, right? So you need to monitor them very closely and keep them informed always, because you don't want to mess with them. They are the key influencers. They can take certain decisions, They can decide to call off the project. They can decide to add more funds. They can decide to add more resources. So they are very important key stakeholders for you. They may not be interacting with you directly, but they are one of the stakeholders. So what is your roles and responsibility when you're actually identifying the stakeholders? Capture the details and monitor them closely and keep them informed so that they are not seeing any surprises and you are not seeing any surprises from them as well. The stakeholders can be a primary benefactor of the project, like they will be using or probably selling in the market. So now the last thing, stakeholders, who the stakeholders actually are. We have discussed this before. So any business owners, sponsors, customers, employees, IT staff, vendors and suppliers, regulators, compliance authorities, shareholders, and investors. And obviously your partners and collaborators, they all are the stakeholders. All right, so next, how do you identify the stakeholders? As I have just told you, identifying a stakeholder is a very important step in any of the project. You don't want to miss them. You don't want to miss their insights, their ideas. You don't want to be in a situation where their needs are not identified and captured or not addressed or not taken into account. This is very important for you to identify the key stakeholders. In a broader category, we as a BA, we try to categorize them in two different places. We have stakeholders or clients from the client end. From the client end stakeholders, we may have business owners, we may have sponsors, we may have managers, leaders, and the actual users. So you would like to categorize them and put all these stakeholders under the client and the stakeholders list. And other end is the development end as in your internal team. So this could be your project manager or program manager within your organization. It could be a business analyst, could be architect, designers, or UI or UX, user interface or user experience team members. You may have actual developers who will be developing all those codes, the testers who will be doing manual or automation testing, and somebody who is actually deploying and delivering this to the customer's premises. So all those are stakeholders. You need to have one stakeholder register created. You can create that register in Excel, Word, or any of the free tools you can find online. There's plenty of tools. And you need to have simple 2 columns, probably multiple columns, 2 different sections, client end and development end. You write their names, your email addresses, your official phone numbers, and their positions, and their influence label. Is this someone is very influential? Is this person has really high power or high interest, or low interest, low power, high interest, low power, all those things you need to identify initially. This will help you a lot during your requirement gathering process. When you're going to meet that person, now you know This person is at the client end or at the development end, or this person has what authority, what power, what interest, and then accordingly you can frame your questions. This is very important for you to identify the proper stakeholders and document them. Any questions before I go ahead?
Yes. Is there a name for this like table, like writing all the stakeholders? Like, is it called what do you say? I forgot the RACI matrix or something.
No, we call it stakeholder register. RACI matrix is something different. Probably we will not be studying here, but since you have used this word, I may take this into consideration. We'll try to teach you. So RACI is something different. We call it a simple stakeholder register. So within the register, we have all those stakeholders' names.
Okay.
Now, who is responsible? Who is accountable? That is something different. We will talk later on in some other classes that we call RACI, RACI. Responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. So that's a separate thing. We'll discuss later on.
Okay.
So this Excel or tool is called stakeholder register. And now, since we're discussing this one, so you can ask me, when should I start writing the stakeholder register and when should I stop writing? When should I believe, okay, this is now the end of the stakeholder register? There's no certain answer for this question. For me, as a BA or as a PM, what normally I do is I start from day one and I keep updating throughout my project. Because today someone may be in a higher priority, tomorrow may not. Today someone could be someone may have high interest and high power. Tomorrow the person may not. Tomorrow I may add some new stakeholders. Tomorrow I may want to remove some out of the stakeholder list. So for me, this is my ongoing activity. I'm going to continue doing throughout my project. By the time I'm delivering the project, I'm getting this signed off from the business and the project is officially closed. I'm not going to stop working on the stakeholder register. I'm continue working on that and keep revising that thing. And then everything is done. I'm going to go ahead and upload this document to business repositories anywhere as per the company's policies. This is the stakeholder register is not your personal belonging. This is your company belongings. They own it. So you have to give it to them so that any new manager or new team members, if they're working in a similar project, they can use all those documents. Cool. Move next. How do you identify the requirements? This is a very important thing you have to understand. Couple of things you can do when you're actually identifying the requirements initially. This would be like very initial stages. First thing, what is as-is or current situation? It is important for you to understand what is the as-is situation, why this has come up, and what is as-is, like what is the current state business has right now. When I'm saying that means I got one requirement. So I needed to know, is this like a brand new requirement? Does business have anything similar with them that they would like to leverage and use that? Or maybe carry over or carry forward with that? Whatever. So you have to understand. So you go and document what is the as-is situation. You get to requirement A, you document. So as-is situation is this, right? Business has these things already and business would like to utilize this thing, would like to leverage. Business may have a lot of legacy data that they would like to use it or in the future state of the project. So you needed to understand all those things. Business may have like tons of legacy data that they would like to migrate with the new tool, new software. You need to understand what is the as-is situation and document it properly so that you don't miss the important things. And then what is the future state? What is to be? What is the required state that has to be done? That is required or needs to be done. So this is something you have to capture as well. If you miss to capture what is as-is and what is current state, probably you may not be able to justify what is to be and future state. So both are important for you. And you have to document everything in your requirement documentations, in your SRS or in your BRD. At least BRD is very important. You have to write this as-is and to be. And SRS may or may not have these details. Now, what things are important for you when you're capturing the requirement? Everything is important for you. To name some of them I've written here, like you have to describe properly what is the functional requirement, what is non-functional requirements. Now, when I'm saying non-functional requirements, what does it mean? It means the quality attributes of the software, such as performance, security, scalability, usability, all those things are your non-functional requirements. Functional requirement is the main thing, the main action of that project. Non-functions are everything which are supporting to that non-functional, the functional requirements. We have studied this in detail. I've given you a good example of the functional, non-functional. Even if not, you don't remember, go back and watch my previous videos. You will definitely learn in detail what is function, what is non-functional, and I've given you very basic examples to help you clear your understanding on these factors. Any questions here? Silence is no. Cool. Thank you. Now we are going to enter into the requirement gathering world. So now from here onwards, we will understand what are the different types of requirements. We have studied this before as well. This is just to remind you. And then what techniques are we going to use, and what is the advantages and disadvantages of each of the techniques. So based on the advantages and disadvantages, you will decide based on the group of the people or the current situation, which technique I should be using, weighing your advantages and disadvantages both. So this slide is like just to remind you, because we are going to talk a lot about the requirements. So I just thought to remind you, there are basically three types of the requirements. One is the interface requirement. This is front-end requirements, how your screens or your wireframes or mockups should look like. How should it look like as a front-end screen? When I'm going to go to any of the websites, how is it looking? That is your front-end requirement. We call it technically graphical user interface, but this is nothing but your front-end screens and nothing else. And then your functional requirement and your non-functional requirement, we just studied, and I just give you one example. Right. So what are the fact findings? When you are actually going ahead and capturing the requirement, what are the fact findings? How do you go in detail and try to capture the requirement properly? Couple of things. When you are into the requirement gathering phase, you have to focus on what and why it is needed, and sometimes where it is needed, or probably when it is needed. Customer can also give you a tentative or like high-level ballpark timeline requirements. Okay, this is what I need, this is why I need, and I want you to deliver this to me by this date or by this time, blah, blah, and by this place. So during requirement gathering, you should be focusing on what and why, but probably you may also end up capturing when and where. But how is a big no. How you will only do when you're actually doing elicitation or analyzing those requirements in detail. You're defining those requirements and then finding out, okay, if this is possible, if yes, how can we do these things? This how part includes a lot of things, your technical expertise, the development inputs, the limitation, constraints, everything. So this is something you will not be doing when you're capturing the requirements. So they're like, these are WH concepts. I say this is not official term, but I use it at like WH concepts so that this is easy for you to remember. There are like 5 WH: what, why, when, where, and how. You can memorize this if you want. It's not needed. You don't see that red icon, so it's not needed. But if you want, you can memorize these things. All right, so data gathering techniques. There's so many techniques, as I said, you can use when you're actually capturing the requirement. And these are very important for you. As I'm just repeating, you don't need to use all of them. You might use just 1, 2, or some of them, or probably you may end up using all of them. That all depends upon the stage of the project, the maturity of the project, the maturity of the stakeholders, and your experience. Start with first interviews. What is interview? Interview is nothing but you are like going ahead and talking to some subject matter expert or one of the stakeholders one-to-one who will give you the details. It's like interviews, like simple interview. You have invited someone from the stakeholder. You're sitting with him or her one-to-one and asking your questions on the requirements. So it's moreover, it's like one-to-one meeting. Focus group. Focus group is like another form of the interview. Here, what you do, you have invited like group of people, group of key stakeholders together, and you're asking them the questions. So difference between interviews and focus group is interview is one-on-one, and focus group is like a group of interviews. You're just calling group of people for the same interview, and you're trying to capture the requirement. What is facilitated workshop? Here, what you do is you try to co-locate all the key stakeholders at one common room, one common war room, one place where everybody is sitting together. This might include your business sponsors, your development team, your management, business management, all possible key stakeholders. When I'm saying key stakeholders, You may not invite all the developers, probably a technical lead, probably just a technical manager, and not the individual developers, but you may decide to invite them as well. That completely depends. Why do you need them to invite? Probably there's something that they needed to understand, that they need to know, and you believe you may not be able to justify those information you're passing it through. So you would want them to come and join these meetings as well. So this is what we call facilitate this workshop. This is very important, very important. And the BA has to be really, really, experienced. Probably when I'm saying experience, you need to have those skills where you can handle this like group key stakeholders. Just try to assume one room and you have like all directors, senior directors, CEOs, the key stakeholders, the funders, resources, all those are as one place, and you're asking them the question. You want that session to go really well. So you have to be pretty ready, done your homework. This might be challenging for you because you're going to handle all those key stakeholders at one place. So how do you gain those confidence? Obviously, as more you work, the more you do all these sessions, gradually you learn. You gain more experiences. You learn from your mistakes, and you utilize those things to improve your skill set. So it takes some time, but it happens actually. The one common example is joint application development, JAD. This is a very common term in traditional waterfall. People might ask you the question, what is JAD? What is joint application development? How do you do this thing? So the answer is, during JAD, we try to bring all the key stakeholders at one place in one room, and we discuss the key points, key issues. That might be requirement gathering, that might be discussion of one of the requirements in details. And we try to bring all people at one place and one together, and so that fix it. We can fix it then and there on the fly, or at least we can find a solution, or we can get some agreement on the fly. So this is one of the examples of facilitated workshops. Next, there's some group creativity techniques. These techniques are also very important for the requirement gathering. A BA must understand the importance of creating an environment where people can feel comfortable and safe sharing process and ideas. What does it mean? You have a lot of people at one place. Some probably might be one of the team members. Some might be like, the CEO or maybe directors, senior directors, or the key stakeholders. They all may not feel comfortable talking at the same time. Probably I may have, I might be hesitant to talk. I might think, okay, I'm going to create some enemies for me. I'm going to sound funny. Okay. I'm going to probably go against my manager or my leaders. Better let me keep silent and keep listening to them. You might face this situation in the group creativity technique. So this is very important for you as a BA to create the environment where everybody feel comfortable talking and sharing the ideas and feedback. And how do you do that? There's so many different ways you can do that. You can have some fun games. You can try to be more cool, as long as maintaining your professionalism. You have to do all those things. So this is something you have to make sure you're creating that environment where everybody is talking. If people are not talking, these will not serve the purpose. Hope you're getting my point. So now, what are different group creativity techniques? The first one is the brainstorming, which is very important. You will always see these questions coming to your way. What is brainstorming and how do you do these things? It's pretty simple. What happens in the brainstorming session, we bring all the key stakeholders together, and they all sit together, they all share the ideas. Let's say I have one common issue. How should we plan next holiday? Now, this is one of the topics. Example. Now, you will invite all the related folks who can give you more insights and ideas, and you will have all sit together at the one place, and one by one, everybody will be sharing the information. And then once everyone is done, we will discuss all those inputs in detail. So as a BA, you will be facilitating these sessions. How would you do? You will try to capture the notes. Probably you can have your screen shared and you can keep typing. Like person A is saying, we should be doing this thing. You write it down. Person B is saying, okay, I think we should also do this thing. Write it down so that everyone knows what you have written. And then once everyone is done, you go and start talking one by one, all those ideas, and you finally decide something. So this is what we call brainstorming. Nothing but to collect the ideas from different sources at the same place, same time, in one room. Now, what is nominal group technique? This is nothing but one step addition to the brainstorming. In this technique, whatever information you have captured, from the brainstorming session, you will go and weight them. You will prioritize them and see, okay, out of 10 ideas that we have captured, these 5 are on the higher priority and critical ones that we will be taking care of first. These 2 are like on a medium priority, and these 2 are okay. It's good to have. If we can do this, if we have bandwidth as in time, we can do this one. If we do not have bandwidth, that is completely fine. We can park it for some other time, maybe for the next sessions or next the development phase. So in this nominal group techniques, you all together try to prioritize and vote them, together. Everybody will be voting together. Let's say you got 5 what can be improved kind of thing. Out of you got 10 ideas. Out of 10, you have decided, okay, 4 are something that can be done differently and improved. Out of 4, we have to take only 2. So which 2 we should be taking into the action, the actual action? So the whole team will vote. They will provide the anonymous vote to those 2 items, and the highest voted items you will move to the action item section that you will be actually taking an action. When I'm saying you, as in probably just you or your team or everybody. So this is how you vote and how you identify which are ones on higher priority and which one we are going to take into the action. You do that in nominal group techniques. So probably you might encounter these questions: what is brainstorming and what you do next? Or probably people will ask you, what is nominal group technique? How this is different than brainstorming? Very, very important and very simple. If you have understood the concept, it's very simple. Now, what is Delphi technique? This is very common question. You will 100%, if people will not ask you the brainstorming, they will ask you what is Delphi technique. Delphi technique is nothing but to capture the requirement anonymously. You do the same thing, but no one knows what information or idea is coming from whom. It is anonymous. And why do we do this thing? As I just said, in one room, probably I may have one junior resource, I may have one senior resource, I may have someone from the management, and I don't want anyone to get influenced by someone's ideas and insights. Let's say my manager is there and he is sharing something. Since he's my manager or she is my manager, I may not be able to go against him or her or probably add something that I really wanted to add, because I will have a fear of get noticed and creating enemies or like sound funny. So to avoid those situations, BA decides to do Delphi technique. And when will you do this Delphi technique? Again, as I said, this completely depends upon the situation. So better you will go and do Delphi techniques. You will capture the insights and the requirements, but anonymously, so that no one knows who has written and no one is getting influenced by others' input or ideas. So this is very important. But what are you doing here? You're doing the same thing. You're capturing the requirements and nothing else. Now, ideas and mind mapping. This is the last stage of the probably this group creativity technique. Here, what happens? You have captured the requirement. You have discussed those in details. You have prioritized them, and now you would like to show them in some graphical, way, with some diagrams. So diagrams talks more than the words. You know this very well. So you might end up writing like 10 pages for one requirement, and the 10 pages requirement can be presented in like 1-page diagram. So this saves you time and this makes people easy to understand. So I have captured some of the requirement. Now I would like to go ahead and do some mind mapping. I would like to create some diagrams, some prototypes, which are already obviously will be aligned to those ideas. So people can see and people can again give you the feedback. People will say, oh, this is what you have got. No, I didn't want this. I said something else. You know what? This looks pretty, but if we can add this thing, this is going to be really, really helpful. This will be awesome. So when people see something, they say something. It's very important. So it is important for you to show them what you have come up from all those ideas. So in ideas and mind mapping, you come up with the diagrams. And diagrams could be anything. Could be use case diagram, could be class diagram, could be simple UI UX design, whatever. That again depends upon the requirement. So these are basically group creativity techniques. Before I go ahead, any questions?
Sajid, I have a question. Could you please repeat this point, Delphi technique? In this technique, we are gathering information or data from the anonymous, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how we can capture the ideas or data from anonymous?
Okay. There are thousands of tools online available where you can create those boards where people will be writing and no one knows who has written, right? So what you will do, you will have one of the boards from those free sources. So you can also create your board and you will share with the team. Like we have 5 people in the group and I'm going to share that report. Everybody will be going and adding stickies and notes to that board, but no one knows who has written, right? So probably everybody will feel comfortable writing and they don't have to write their names. So this will be like anonymous data you're getting. You see the data, but who has written, you don't know. That's one of the ways. The other way, now you may have another question. People might see what I'm writing. The other people might not be writing against me. That's cool. So what you will do, you will not share those screens to everyone. Let's say the same tool you will be providing all those people, and probably you will stop sharing your screen and you will do something that people just write and they do not bother who is writing and where it is writing and what is coming in there. And then once you have captured everything, you can go start on reviewing all those things. There's so many different free tools that you can use it. So the ultimate purpose is you should not, the people should not know who is writing. It should be anonymous. If I'm writing something, you just see what is written, but you don't know who has written. That's what it is called Delphi technique. There's so many different ways of doing Delphi techniques, you can use it. But the only one focus is you should not share who has written. That's all. Everybody has to write, but who has written, no one knows. Did I answer the question, Wasim, or should I give you more example?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
And it's kind of the common tool which will be used by all the stakeholders, but in separately, right?
One common tool everybody will be using. One common page is like, if there's so many pages like Google page, you create one Google page, right? And you publish there. Everybody can use that page, it can write there. Everybody can contribute, but no one knows who has written. Like you create one common Google Forms and you're asking some feedback from different group of people and you don't want to capture their names. You just disable the name option. You will have just options like 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody will be giving their option, but no one knows who has written. Like the people can use.
Yeah, thank you.
So now some other techniques. The next one in the list is questionnaire and service. As name appears, we will send them service and questionnaire to the group of users to collect the information. So when are we using this? This is a very important question. When we have a large group of people across the world, or maybe distributed in different places, not in one common place. So what normally as a BA we do is we have some of the questions written, like 10, 15 questions written. The questions could be open-ended and closed-ended. Open-ended as in where the business has to explain things, give you the answer. Closed-ended as in like just yes, no. They will answer yes or no, something like that. So you will create some set of questions and you will send the same set of questions to all the groups at the same time through email or through any of the sources that you may want to use. And then everybody will be answering the question and sending it back to you. So this becomes really helpful for you when you have a large group of people across the globe or wherever, basically not at one place, and you don't have that much time to go and interview them individually. So you create this questionnaire and send them, and you collect the responses and you analyze them. So basically what happens in the questionnaire and service, so obviously the format will be same. You will be using one format and you will be sending to everyone. So the collected data will be, this will be easy for you to analyze things because everybody will be answering in the same way. So that's important for you. Now, it also has some pros and cons, and what is that we will discuss later on in this class. Second one is observation. As name says, you will actually doing shadowing. What does it mean? Let's say I'm working on something, you will come and sit with me and you will actually observe what I'm doing and how I'm doing. And then you will learn and you will capture the requirement. So this is one of the most successful way of capturing the requirement, but this has a lot of challenges. Now, what those challenges we will discuss in detail in the further slides. So in this process, basically, you are actually doing nothing but to observing very closely how things are being done. That's all. Now, don't talk what is the pros and cons. We have a separate class to discuss in detail. Prototypes is nothing but to creating diagrams, something that people can see and understand what is going on. Let's say an example, you got one requirement from one of the business to design something, maybe a bedroom. Now you have done your homework, you studied the requirement from the business, and what you did, you tried creating some diagrams, like 3D diagram that has some looking like a bedroom, attached bathroom, and bed and everything. And now you are going and showing the business, okay, this, you need a bedroom, a master bedroom, and this is, I think we can do this one. Look at this. This is a room size, and we can place the bed here. This is like bathroom, a walk-in closet, all those things. So when business sees it, they will learn more, and they can give you more actual feedback that will be helpful for you. And the project will be 100% success. So prototyping is very important. If you can do this one, you do it. If you cannot, go and take help of the UI team. They will help you create these prototypes for you. But during the requirement gathering phases, I'm giving you real-time challenges. Unless the project is officially started, signed off, probably that UI team may not be able to contribute you more, because they will not see this as a value adding to their time. They may have other things to do as well. So I would recommend you at least learn one of the prototyping tools that you can use it easily, and you can have things come up written on your own, and you can go and review with the UI team and then the business. Now, what tools we will discuss in detail later on, not now. So next is benchmarking. Benchmarking is nothing but to use someone else's work. I have done something which was awesome, which was successful. Project was successful. Everybody liked it. And now I have documented and kept somewhere in the business repository. So what you will do as a BA, you will try to benchmark them. You'll go and use those the best proven practices that they have done. And then you will try to follow them and do your project and do your requirement gathering. So now you can utilize this greatest work within and outside of your organizations. It's perfectly fine, as long as it is not like, compliance issues for the other org or other teams. You can use it. Context diagrams. Now, how this context diagram is different than prototype. Prototype is nothing but to give them the actual screens, how it's going to look like. Context diagram is like little technical. This includes your use case diagrams, your class diagram, object diagram, activity diagram, sequence diagram, all those diagrams. Here it is technically written, and this will tell you how are you doing things, how the system will behave, and how different activities will be performing. You go to the ATM, giving you one simple example. You insert your ATM card, put in your key in your number, and you decide to check your balance or withdraw some amount, or any other things, probably change your phone number, your address, or depositing cash, whatever. And then you follow the instruction and you complete your transactions. So this is like one simple system boundary, and there's certain work that you have been doing there. Now, if I have to explain this to a developer, I may have to write like 50 or more than 50 pages in detail, each steps, how this machine should work. Now, the same thing I can also do in just 1 or 2 pages if I use a use case diagram. Use case diagram is nothing but a graphical representation of the same requirement. So I can do the same thing in just 1 or 2 pages. So this is also very important for a BA to have some knowledge on writing context diagrams. One of the very famous is a use case diagram that you see here I have written. In the interviews, you will 100% get this question: what is use case? How do you write? Can you give me one example of the use case? Can you? In some of the interviews, they'll ask you to write the use case. They'll just simply give you a pen and paper and ask you just give us draw a use case diagram, and they'll give you the situations. So for you to get the job and clear the interviews, you need to have a pretty good understanding of the use case diagrams and some more diagrams like activity diagrams and sequence diagrams. Now, are we going to study this thing? The context diagram, the whole UML comes in the intermediate level of the course. And as of now, I have no idea if I'm going to teach you or not. I'll do some assessment. Assessment will be your technical knowledge, what you have studied, plus your commitments, and we'll decide if you would like to go for the intermediate course or not. For now, for you to understand, use case diagram is one of the perfect example of context diagram. So you should be doing as well when you're capturing the requirement, because when you draw these things, business or user will understand these things in detailed way and can give you more ideas, more insights that you can help yourself clearing a lot of doubts. So this is very good things you should be using. Question: should we use this always, or do we really need to use it? And there's no answer. You may or may not. as I said, you may not be using all these techniques. You may be just one, two, or maybe all. I'm not sure. That completely depends on the project's the tenure, the team, and your experience. Completely depends. So you may or may not be using use case diagrams in the project. So don't worry. Document analysis, you will have some of the documents from the business end that you will analyze, read this, go through the document, analyze, find out some initial requirements, and based on that, you plan your way of working and drill down further and keep adding more information. This is one of the ways that you can also collect the requirements from doing different already existing documents. This could be anything. Could be the requirement document that you get initially from the business, or could be any of your internal documents, or could be a document that was done for some other project. But you believe this is going to be really helpful for me. You go ahead and study all those documents and do your analysis and find out the notes, the key points, and then you start working from there. Now, this page is nothing but everything at one place. Whatever we have studied, all those techniques, their descriptions, and the way in just one page. So if you would like to see this, just let me know. I can attach this Excel in the video, YouTube video. You can download from there. But just let me know if you guys need it. Otherwise, I'm not going to do this. All right. Everything is at one place. Any questions before I go ahead?
Yes. Does the use case diagram has to be included in the functional requirement document?
Yes and no, both. Functional requirement may have graphical representation of the requirement or may not. That again depends. But if you add, this is going to be really helpful. I said no as well. The reason being, business, moreover, they're not interested in knowing how things are working. So they are just interested in knowing what you have understood and how soon you can do this one, what cost they have to pay, all those things. So basically in business requirement document, BRD, we have the functional requirements in simple, plain English language, like plain vanilla flavor, no more technicals. Business may not be able to understand all those technical jargons. So you may not be adding. But when you're writing this, the software requirement documentation for your internal team, you may end up writing if the project needs it. If there's a requirement for the use case, you will write. Otherwise, you will not write. Not all the requirements will want you to write these contact diagrams. No, some of them they may. If it is required, you have to write. So your question is under functional requirement. If that functional requirement is for the technical team, probably you will end up writing it. If that functional requirement is for the business, you may not write it. You may not write it. So that depends. Now, when we study the use case diagram, since you have asked this question, let me give you the answer. Use case diagrams are actually two types: the business use case and system use case. Business use case is like a simpler version of the use case that any person can understand, like any layman person can understand simply, if I don't have to be technical to understand. So that business use cases we write for the business requirement documents if at all needed. We try to avoid those things. The reason being, business may like ask a lot of questions, like too many to and fro emails. We would like to avoid all those things. We do not write unless it is needed. And then in the system use cases are actually for the developers or for the technical team. So you will be writing all those system use cases in software requirement document or the functional requirement documents if that is all being written for the development team. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Decision-making techniques. This is important. This is one of the very possible questions for you in the interviews. The interviewer may ask you this way. You have discussed a lot of things. There are like 5, 6, or 10 group of people, the key stakeholders, and you have some conflicts, probably you're not able to make some decisions on your own, or business is not able to make some decisions. What techniques you will use to make sure you get some decisions done already? So there are 5 techniques. First is unanimity. What does it mean? Everyone has to be agreeing on this one. If everybody is agreeing, we are taking the decisions, right? How do you do that? You can do a poll. You can do like, the anonymous chat polls or whatever. There are different ways of doing all those things. Majority. So during the poll, you found almost everyone is agreeing. Probably out of 100 people, 5 people are not agreeing, but 95 people are agreeing. So almost everyone is agreeing. So you will take the decision on that certain point. Consensus. Over 50% has to agree. Let's say out of 100 people, 55 people are saying yes and 45 no. So almost 50% are saying no. This may have a little conflict in the future, but since we have set a proper expectation, we will be accepting consensus votes. So we will be going ahead with that vote. Why? Because we agreed if we have over 50% of the vote, we will go ahead with that. So you have to like set the proper expectations as well before you do all these techniques. Plurality, what does it mean? The largest group has to agree, however, 50% not required. So before you started using these techniques, you have discussed with the group of the people and set proper expectation that, okay, we will be accepting things if majority of us are saying yes. However, this may or may not be 50% above, at least 50 or 50% above. If everybody is agreeing, you can also use this technique. And the last one is dictatorship, which is a big no, big no for any of the things, even for the exams, for the interviews, for your real-time work. Not one person should be taking decisions. This is going to be really a big mess, a big problem. So don't say no. So now if you see from top to bottom, you have to give the priority. On the top, number one priority, second, after that, third, after that, and so on. So you should be trying to do first thing first, unanimity, and then you do go with the majority. And then if even it doesn't work, you go with consensus, and then the next, and then next. This is how you do decision making. And do you really do always? No. At certain times, you come in the situation where you're not able to make some decisions, and then you use these techniques. Any questions on this one?
No.
Cool. So the interviewer may ask you, what are the different decision-making techniques? Simple words. Or they may ask you, can you explain us what do you mean by consensus with an example? Or probably they may ask you, how do you guys take decisions? Do you have someone kind of the one person who's taking all the decisions? Basically, he wants or she wants to know if there's a dictatorship there, right? They may ask you, what is the difference between majority and consensus? Anything they can ask. And these questions are pretty easy to answer if you understand the concept. This is very important for you to understand. I should have written that red straight mark here. I forgot to add it here, but this is important for you to memorize. But before I go ahead, any questions? Once again, anyone? All right. Which of the following is not a technique for requirement gathering? Interview, surveys, brainstorming, and quality assurance. Give me your answer.
I will go with D.
D.
Okay.
It's D.
Let's see. Yes. The quality assurance is the process of quality check, not the requirement gathering. And this comes after requirement gathering. So you guys are right, correct, 100%, good. Second question, when should a BA use questionnaire and service for requirement gathering? You read the options and give me the answer. When should a BA use questionnaire and service for requirement gathering?
I think I will go with D as well.
You said D, all of above?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else?
It's D.
The same answer, right?
C.
C. Okay, this technique is used with, okay. What else?
I think C.
C. Okay, let's see what is the answer. Yes, the answer is C. This technique is used where there's a large group of people. When everyone sits around and shares ideas, this is not called questionnaire. This is called, what do you call it? You guys tell me. You just studied. It's called brainstorming. We're sitting everybody together and collecting the ideas. Co-locate all key stakeholders together to discuss and capture. This could be one of your, the group, the techniques. But surveys and questionnaire we always use when we have a large group of people across the world, across the different regions, and then we send them the questionnaires. We will discuss pros and cons of some of the techniques, not all of them. some of the main techniques that we have studied before, yesterday, how and what technique we should be using when it comes to the requirement gathering. So today we are going ahead and reviewing some of them and see what is the benefits, like what is the advantages and what are the disadvantages we may face if we select these processes, the techniques. Number one is interview. So interview, what are the benefits? The benefits, like, this gives you opportunity to talk freely because you're facing someone, virtual or face-to-face. This is like one-to-one meeting. So this gives you a lot of opportunity so that you can ask freely the questions. You can be really open with the questions. And even the interviewee who is giving you interview and giving you the answers, they may also feel free to talk and comfortable, so like one-to-one discussion. And this will give you a chance to ask probing questions, as in you ask something and the interviewer is answering you something, then you get a chance then and there to ask another questions to like deep down the information. Like it's like probing question. You have some queries and you have some concerns, but you can ask them then and there and you can clarify that. So that is one of the benefits. And obviously you can always reword and adapt new questions during the interviews. It is pretty easy because you're facing someone working one-to-one. So you have chances to reword your questions and adapt the questions, and you can go ahead with that. And the main benefit is you can also observe the non-verbal communications. Non-verbal communication is very important. It actually adds a lot of value to the verbal communications. When people talk to you, you can observe their body language, their face expressions. All those things add a lot of things to the verbal communication. So in interview, either virtual or face-to-face, you have these benefits in the interviews. So these were the advantages. Now, what are the disadvantages? There are a lot of disadvantages as well with the interview process. This might be a time consuming, therefore it is costly. Time equals money. Everyone knows that. So this might be really a time consuming. So this is going to cost you a lot, and you may have to travel. There are a lot of factors also involved here that might take a lot of time for you to face someone and ask questions. Now, again, how successful the interview is going to be, how successfully you will be capturing the information, that completely depends upon your skill set, the soft skills. What does it mean? It means you should know how to make the most out of those meetings. If you don't have those skills, you may not be able to use the time and ask the right questions, probing questions, and get a lot of information. So somebody who does not have these soft skills really high, like interpersonal skills, you have not faced the interviews before, probably this is going to be really tough or difficult at certain time for you, because you are going to talk to someone who is kind of a subject matter expert and who is providing you the information. Now, if you don't know how to ask the right question, what to ask, you have not done your homework before, this might be a little complicated for you. So, I mean, again, this experience comes as long as you grow and learn and you face people. In every interview, you will see you're improving. So this will take some time, but you can improve, definitely, and you have to improve. And sometimes, the interviewing process is impractical because of the different locations and availability, willingness of the interviewees. It means probably you are sitting at one location and you're someone who is at a different location. So it is practically not possible for you to fly there or travel there, by road or by air and talk to the person. Sometimes it is a little difficult. Even though if that is possible, the other person may not be available for you. The person may have other important stuffs to do, so the person may not give you the time. So that also is one of the constraints. And if everything is okay, but the person is not willing to talk to you with any XYZ reasons, that is again going to be a problem for you. So these are the disadvantages. Now, we were talking yesterday on what basis we should be deciding which technique I should use. So that again completely depends upon the situation. I'm just repeating upon the tenure of the work that you have been doing and your homework, and you will decide, okay, for this person, either interview is going to work or any other method is going to work, and you will use that method to collect the information from him or from her. Second, questionnaire and service. We use questionnaires and service when we have a large group of the people spread in different locations. If the people are not sitting at one location, we cannot go ahead with other things. The only best option is to go for the questionnaire. So what are the pros? What are the benefits of doing this, using this technique? This is quite easy, quick, and inexpensive because you don't have to travel, you don't have to call people at one place, and you don't really have to interact face to face. This is just like some questionnaire. You will write the questionnaires, the right questions, and you will send them through some digital media, through email or through any of the other medias, and the people will respond to you. So this is inexpensive. It's not going to cost you more. And you can reach out to the large group of people, as we just said. And it also gives those people enough time to find out good answers for you. They don't have to respond quickly like it happens in the interview. If you both are sitting together, if you're asking some questions in interview, the person has to answer you at the same time. However, the person may ask you that he or she may come back to you later on with any one of the answers or questions. But in service, this gives them really a good time so that they can frame their answers, they find the good and correct answers for you, and they can respond it to you. So this is one of the benefits. You will get the good answers from them. And this can be done anonymously. You can send the same questionnaire to 500 different group of people, and they all can respond to you one-to-one anonymously, and no one knows who is sending you what. So these are the benefits. Now, what are the disadvantages of doing questionnaire and service? Not everyone is going to respond, number one, and even not everyone is going to respond you completely. You may have 10 questions, sent 500 people. You might see only 100 people responding to you. Even in 100 people, you might see 50 people have not responded you completely. They did not answer all the questions. So these are pretty common disadvantages of the service. Even in our personal lives, we might have seen, we get some of the service from sometimes Walmart, sometimes other, XYZ companies, and we tend to ignore them, number one. Even if we decide to answer, we do not answer all the questions. We see, okay, these 5 questions are pretty easy, I can answer, and the remaining let me ignore. So this is a common issue you will face during questionnaires and surveys. And if someone is not giving you clear answer, the answer is not clear, it is vague. In the questionnaire, you do not have the opportunity to ask probing questions and clear your doubts. This is one of the disadvantages. And obviously, this is not going to be really easy for you to prepare a good questionnaire. Sometimes it is tough. And you cannot observe the person's body languages, the non-verbal communication at the same time, like you do when you meet people face to face. When they talk, you can observe their body languages and everything that we just discussed. But in questionnaire and service, you don't have that opportunity. You cannot leverage this benefit there. So these are some of the disadvantages. Now, again, you decide what is going to work for you based on the situation and based on the group of the people. Next is observation. Okay, before I talk observation, do you have any questions from the previous two techniques?
No.
It's pretty clear, right? Yeah, good. So observation is first thing, what is observation? We studied before in this class yesterday. Observation is nothing but to shadow someone. Someone is working and you're sitting with them or him or her, and you're watching what the person is doing, and you're observing and collecting the information and getting your requirements from them. So this is highly reliable because you see someone actually doing things in front of you. So you know what needs to be done and what the person is expecting from this project or from this product. This is one of the best, I would say, the most successful way of capturing the requirement. So you may have chance to capture a lot of things that you may not capture in different ways. Like when you talk to people, when you send them the questionnaires, you do all other stuff. There's something will be hidden for sure. That is, you can benefit in when you're actually observing and looking at the people and shadowing them and seeing what they're doing. So you can also find those answers, those unasked questions answers, that you cannot do in other things, because you're looking at something happening in front of you. So it's pretty easy for you. And obviously you can observe the complex tasks that you cannot write in questionnaire, you cannot ask, you may not be able to ask in the interviews. But when you see someone doing something, probably they may be doing a lot of complex tasks that you would want to add in your requirement that is going to be really helpful for you. So these are some of the benefits. And obviously this is inexpensive because you're sitting with them and just observing. It may incur some of the cost if you're at a different locations and you're traveling. Apart from those, you're not gonna have a lot of expenses in this technique. This is pretty easy. But it may also have some of the disadvantages that you may not actually ignore, you have to face. Number one, if someone is watching what you're doing, you might not feel comfortable doing things. It's a human nature. If I'm doing something and someone is sitting at just behind me or besides me, looking at me, what I'm doing, I may not feel comfortable. So what will happen? The moment I start feeling uncomfortable, I'll start hiding a lot of things from you. So you may not be able to observe everything that you actually needed to see, because purposefully, I will not do all those things because I know I'm feeling shy. Probably I'm not good doing something. So I would not do that particular item or action in front of you because I know you're watching me and you're shadowing me, looking at me. So you will miss those things. So people may, purposefully will not show you something that you wanted to see, right? So this is, kind of one of the disadvantages. That this is a major disadvantage you will always face. And there are certain things you would like to see in certain order. While observing people, this might not be possible for you because I may not do the way you wanted to see. I might be doing my job the way I prefer doing it. So maybe I can do task 1 first and then task 25 second and then so on. You said I can just randomly pick those items and I can work. You will still see me doing, but you may not be easily connecting all the dots. This might be a little confusing for you. What is happening here, man? Because you will not say in the correct orders. And this is human nature. Everybody feels comfortable the way they want it to work. So they will not work the way you want it to see. So this could be one of the problems for you. Now, again, how do you deal with these problems? Not only in observation, in any other techniques. It all depends upon your skill sets, your experience, your communication skills, and how much experience do you have dealing with these situations before. Obviously, if you do something for the first time, this will be a little difficult for you, but you keep doing the same thing, it's going to be really easy for you. So at times, the moment you start doing all these techniques, you will immediately get to know what is happening and what you have to take action, like a corrective action. So this comes naturally to you with some experience. So don't worry, but these are some of the known disadvantages that you should know and you should be aware of. Workshops and focus group. This also has some of the advantages and some of the disadvantages. So let us review the advantages first. It saves time and cost. And what is the reason? Why is it saving time and cost? Because we are calling all those folks at one common location in one room that we call war room. Everybody is sitting together and we can discuss a lot of things in the same time. So this is going to save you a lot of cost and time. People will be really actively discussing, because if you have 5, 6 or more than a good number of people sitting together and talking to you, they will talk actively. Everybody will be talking something and the other person will get the ideas, the information, and then they'll also start talking, contributing. So you will see people talking actively. And we all can take decisions then and there because everybody's there. We have a lot of things to discuss. We're talking, we're reviewing, we're asking probing questions. Everybody's sharing their insights, their ideas. This is actually really easy for you to take some decisions that is agreed by everyone, that we call a mutual understanding. Everybody is agreeing on something, and then we are taking some decisions. Now, we studied before in the class yesterday, how do we come to this decision point where there's a conflict? There's certain the techniques that we can use to get some decisions. And what are those? If you have not seen the video, go back and watch the previous video, and I have discussed them in detail. Now, you will get immediate feedback. Obviously, everybody is talking at the same time, same meeting. If you have any questions, you can immediately ask, and you can get the feedback immediately. So these are some of the benefits. Some disadvantages. Difficult to schedule. Why? Because you are going to call a lot of people together at the same time in the same meeting. And practically, this might not always be possible that everybody is available at the same time. They all may have different schedules. Their calendars may be busy. They may not be able to give you time. Some may have traveling constraints. Some may have time constraints. Some may have any other commitments. Sometimes it is not really possible to bring all people at one place at the same time and to discuss. So sometimes it is difficult. And as I have been telling you, really need to be a good moderator in order for a successful completion of these sessions. Why I'm saying in such meetings, a group of people may come from a different labels, different teams, different LOBs. You may see people coming from the management, you may people coming from the core technical background, people from the business. They all may be asking you different questions, and you have to be really a good moderator to make sure you're facilitating things really in a good way so that everyone feels comfortable sitting together and talking, even though they're coming from the different backgrounds. But just because you have created an environment where they're feeling comfortable talking and sharing your information, this will be easy for you. But again, I will take this as a disadvantage because it's not always possible for you to create those environments. It's practically not possible. But yeah, this is one of the key skills, your job that you have to do. So you have to learn things and practice and grow. Now, data collected. Yeah, obviously, data collected, what people will say probably will not actually they be doing the same thing. I do something else, but I talk something else. This happens when I'm going to the sessions where I have to like 5 or 10 or more than like 50 people. I don't, let me not comment on the numbers. It could be like good, decent number of the people are sitting there. I may try to really be a decent and talk really good and give you great information. But however, in my real world, I may not be doing all those things. So this is pretty common, So the data you're collecting from the people probably may not be consistent because that person will not be actually doing all those things in the real life. Sometimes it is difficult. Now, how do you identify? Again, this comes with the experience and your preparations and your analysis of the data that you have collected. And then you will gradually know, okay, this information is something I don't want, and this is something I would need. And do I need a new meeting or something? All those things, So these are some of the difficulties you might face when you're doing focus groups and workshop. The one point that I did not write here in the difficulties is pretty common. Not everybody feel comfortable talking. What does it mean? It means you may call 100 people in one group, but you might see only 2 or 3 or 5 of them are talking and remaining are sitting idle and just listening to them, and they do not participate. There could be many reasons behind that. As a moderator, as a facilitator, this is your responsibility to make certain people are talking. How do you talk? So what I recommend normally to the newbie is, when you have these sessions, number one, you should have a clear agenda of the meeting. And then you should know whom you're going to invite. You don't want to invite everybody in the meeting that you don't want them. And you don't want to miss people that you really want to be part of those meetings. So you have to decide all those things. So decide who your audience will be and set a clear agenda so that people are aware what you're going to talk to them tomorrow or in the meeting, so that they should be ready and available with the answers, right? And when you go to the meeting, like, try to dress professionally, try to have a smile, eye contact, show some confidence. Even though if you're not confident, if you're shy, if you're feeling really scary, don't worry. It's a human nature. This happens with everyone. But you have to show at least you're confident. Again, how does it come to you? It comes with the experience naturally. When you go and take the first session, you will feel a little shy, little scared. But as long as you grow, you take more meetings, you will be more confident. And then before you actually start talking, the main thing, you have to have something that people feel connected with you, like maybe a small, quick games, some icebreaker games, so that you see all people are talking. You can start with like, any fun fact. Just tell me your name and give me any of the fun facts, like you love to eat chocolates, or anything, something fun fact for them. So this will actually give you opportunity for people to speak, talk, and feel connected with you. They will not see you as an alien. They will not see this like as a waste of time. So have something there so that people start talking to you, connect with you, start feeling comfortable talking to you. So have like some ice-breaking games. Now, if you don't know what is this ice-breaking games, go and do a Google search, icebreaker games. And this will give you a lot of, the good games that you can play with those such kind of people where you don't know them, and people actually feel comfortable talking to you. So these are some of the ideas I can give you in the behind that you can do as a, BA when you're actually going ahead and doing these sessions, workshops, and focus groups. These are very important. Any questions? Or any doubts, any concerns, anyone?
Are the focus group the same as JAD sessions? Focus group and JAD session same?
JAD session could be one of the example of focus group. JAD is like joint application development. So even in that, you bring all people from different backgrounds, all required, needed people at one place, and you all discuss at the same time, and you take some decisions and fix some problems. So yes, JAD could be one of the good example for workshop and focus group. Workshop is nothing but like bringing a lot of people together. A lot of people, as in a lot of all the folks that you need to be part of those meetings. So yes, that could be one of the examples. So even there, these problems will be there. Let's say you're facing someone new, 50 people new, you don't know them, they don't know you. This will be like really awkward and weird, isn't it? It will. So this is your responsibility to make certain you're creating such environment where people can feel free and talk to you. And how do you start? I would recommend you start with like good smile, hello, hi, talk about some weather, talk about some games that you might have seen before, any happening topics, avoid politics, avoid, any personal discussions, which you should not be doing. Like start with a joke, any good news, anything that, at least you feel, see people talking. If you have like a soccer game, start talking about the soccer game in the initials, and wow, what a game it was, awesome, that guy really did well. What will happen? People will take you as a friend. They will say, okay, this guy is like cool, and he's going to talk like freely. So they will also feel free. Start with, okay, can you give me your name and any one fun fact about you I just told you, or anything that works for you. And then you actually go ahead and start working on your actual agenda. You have to be really a good facilitator, because people tend to deviate from the discussions. You have to stop them. You should learn how to stop them professionally. You don't want to cut them off. If someone is talking, you don't want to cut them off. It is unprofessional way. But you should also learn professionally how you should stop them talking, which is not as per the agenda. So what normally I prefer is I go ahead and write the agendas on the board. Like after doing all those ice-breaking games, I write the agenda on the board so that people can read and see, okay, these are the agenda, they will not deviate. Even I'm doing a virtual meeting, I have one common page, like you see it right now on my screen. I have agenda written somewhere so that they read it. It reminds them what is the agenda, so they do not deviate. So these all are the skills that you will learn gradually. This will not come to you in a day one. And if someone is talking something and you don't want to stop them, but you have to stop them, there are different ways of doing all those things. Just stop them and tell them, okay, you know what, it's a really great point. I really learned a lot, but it really needs, a good sufficient time to discuss. And this will not be justifying, and we will not respect this discussion right now if you try to close it now. Let me have a separate session for you guys to discuss this point specifically. So I'm going to set up one more meeting, and you guys let me know who would like to be part of those discussions. Let's have a separate session and discuss in detail. So this sounds professionally, so people will know that you have stopped them, but they will also not feel bad because you're not being rude. So a lot of these are the soft skills. You will learn and you will develop and grow gradually. So this is very important. I'm taking some time here because I have seen the newbies, the new BAs, newbies, I call it newbies, they face a lot of problems. Even my personal job journey. I had one BA recently joined, and I asked him go and take this session. That guy was like shaking, literally. I cannot face like those group big people. So I went there. I stood with him and asked him, okay, you take care of that, and I'm gonna back you off. This happens. This happened. This is natural. This was happening to me as well when I started initially. But you have to overcome that fear, learn, grow, practice, and then you will be definitely be doing things in a proper and good way. The good part here is, just to give you some confidence, you will not always be doing these workshops. Trust me, you will not. Probably throughout your career, you will have like just 1 or 2 workshops. That depends what kind of work you have got. If it is just got one simple functional requirement change, why would you do this workshop and killing everyone's time? No, you'll simply write one simple document, like 3, 4, 5 pages document, whatever your company is following, and you can just simply work there. You can just simply pick a phone and call and set up a meeting and call and close this thing. That's all done. So don't worry about that. But since you are going to work as a BA, you might be doing these sessions as well, but that depends. All right, so any questions before I move ahead?
No.
Anyone else? Any concerns, anything that you would like to discuss here, we can discuss. Cool. So if no, then let's move. Sample question. What is the purpose of requirement gathering? To identify stakeholders, to develop a project schedule, to identify project risks, to understand and document what the system or product needs to be. What is your answer?
D. D.
Everyone says D, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see the answer. Correct. You guys are doing a good job. Thank you. Which of the following is a limitation of requirement gathering? What option? Tell me.
D.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, let me see the answer. D, correct. When I'm saying requirement gathering, this may include all those techniques, and all techniques have some limitations, So for some of the techniques, this may be a time consuming. For some of them, it could be expensive, and obviously stakeholders may not fully understand their own needs. So answer is all of the above. This could be some of the challenges, or limitations for the requirement gathering. All right, so this session is completed. Now tips, as I always prefer giving you guys, you have to be really very concise and clear when you talk. When you're answering the question, you have to be focused on the answers. Do not deviate. Give them the exact answer. Do not talk more. Do not talk less. So only answer what is needed and required. Sometimes we try to answer a lot of things, and then we actually giving them opportunity to ask you the cross questions, and we get framed. So don't worry. Don't try to give too much information. Give only what was asked, nothing else. And you don't have to give the long, complex, loaded answers. This is really a it's a bad thing. Even though if you're answering and if you're asking the question, either way, don't do this. And always try to record the interviews, either audio or video. This will be really helpful for you. And there are some of the states they have some, the laws, you cannot record unless you ask the permission. So try to practice, ask them the permission. Should I go ahead and record this session, like audio or video? If they say yes, then you should go ahead and do this. Without asking, don't do this one. It's against the law in some of the states here. And obviously, you have to recognize the topic of the questions and then dismiss unrelated information. There could be a lot of questions, a lot of things being asked and told you. So you have to find out what is making sense for you and take it forward, and then remaining you can just ignore. You don't have to be like tricked with those wordy questions. And as I always tell you, interviewer way is the 100% correct way of giving the answers. So answer the way they wanted to hear. And you need to learn from the mistakes, and you keep practicing, keep repeating, and keep improving. common terms that you will be learning will be helpful for you always, that we know already. Okay, what next? This is the same thing I have spoken with you before, and I've explained you in detail in the previous videos. Whoever is watching on YouTube, you can go back and watch the previous videos. You have the discussions in detail. Thank you very much, all of you, for your time today for this meeting.